What's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Monster Motivator TV, coming to you real raw and live from Oceanside, better known as O-Side, and I'm here with my boy Jarrel, better known as J-Rock. What's up, big dog? How are you, man?
Blessed.
All right. I'm pumped for this show because, as you guys know, it's called Real Raw and Live, and it ain't gonna get any more real than what you're gonna hear today. This is gonna be real life wisdom coming from real life experiences, man. So I am really pumped with the value you guys are going to get. When you get this value, share this feed, get some people on here. Let's see some love. This is going to be a really badass show, so I'm pumped. So, big man, we're going to call you J-Rock. Is that all right? I got the green light?
You got the green light.
Got the green light. So, J-Rock, where did it all start? I know you're originally from Miami,
yeah,
right? Dade County,
Florida.
Okay, and you were born and raised?
Born and raised, Dade County, Florida, South Miami. So it's a real big drug area.
Yeah.
I was kind of came after or doing along that whole drug area. You know, crack cocaine was real big in that area where I was at, and I remember sitting on the porch with my mother and my grandmother at times, and they would, point at people, and then they would show me people driving around or riding their bikes around the neighborhood, and they would show me pictures of them. And compared to the pictures, they would look like zombies to me. You know what I mean? But they didn't look, because the drugs had took the life out of them.
So your mom and your grandma were making a point. They were sitting. They were starting to set that seed. Right.
And they were doing what they needed to do as parents or as grandparents, to take the time to show me that, hey man, there's an important thing in this. You know what I mean? And you don't want to go down that wrong path. You know what I mean? Establish your path from a young age.
And it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy in that world, right? To be pulled into that because I'll give you guys my background a little bit later as we go deeper into this and the years I've spent in the inner city, and it's just coming from the real. It's so easy to get caught up thinking there's nothing else, right? There's nothing else, and I think that's where, and you know this, that's where sports come in. At least there's something that there's a little possibility, right? A little bit of hope that I can get out of this, right?
And if nothing else, the sports teach you how to handle that adversity and how to get through it. Because sometimes you got to play hurt, just like in real life. Sometimes you got to go without, just like in real life. Sometimes you have to fight through those barriers, and when everybody's telling you no, you have to be able to go. And that's how sports and things parallel in your life as well as mine.
And keep that foundation, right? That poker face, as we call it.
Exactly.
You got to put that poker face on. And I know that's a daily in the inner city. And I don't care. And you know this. You've been around long enough. I don't care if you're talking about Miami. I don't care if you're talking about New York, New Jersey, Oakland. Listen, at the end of the day, inner city is inner city. It just happens that it's an area that you either know or you don't know, right? So no matter how bad you think you are, if you're in an area that you don't know, you're in a world of trouble, man. Or you could be in a world of trouble, right?
And anywhere in life, the unknown is dangerous. You know.
Absolutely.
Or
it could be.
It could be.
Right.
And the inner city is one of those things that you will never know by looking from a TV screen, unless you'll never. You won't even know just by driving through. You have to talk to the people and be a part of the fabric that is the inner city. And
you got experience.
Yeah.
Right. You got it, and that's called wisdom. So Miami, growing up, you were an athlete, right?
Yeah.
Were you an athlete from the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning. I've always been a football player, ball player. Then I had some good coaches that told me, if you want to be a great football player, you have to learn the mechanics of running. So I got into track and field.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, in between those, I would play basketball. My parents are one of those ones where it's like, hey, as long as you playing sports multiple times a year and you staying away from the trouble, the gangs, the drugs, we'll do what we need to do to maintain and take care of you. So I got grounded foundation. I think sports teaches, especially football, I call it a life sport, because football teaches you about life. It teaches a young man how to be a man and how to be able to, even though it has this individual concept, you have to collectively come together to get to a point, and you have to learn to work with people you may not like, people you may despise, people that are different from you, different levels, because different levels have different devils, but you have to be able to work according in a group setting. And so I took that into, my future's endeavors, whether it be relationships or work or my career as of now, and you just build off of that. So I've always been a ball player. I love ball,
and that's an awesome foundation, right? Because sports kept me out of trouble. That I started wrestling in 4th grade, right? That it kept me out of so much trouble. I still found myself in trouble, but it kept me out of much more trouble. And I know that your dad was a career military, right? Vietnam vet. How much did that help you as a foundation with that?
That was big, because that established two big things. structure was a big thing in my household. My dad, I lived in the type of household where my dad told me everything has its place. You know what
Now,
I mean?
did you grow up with your mom and your dad?
I grew up with my mom and dad for a short time, and then
Okay.
they ended up splitting.
Okay.
You know what I mean, because of domestic violence
Yeah.
reasons. But structure is what I got from my dad.
Okay.
So my mom was my spiritual resource, and my dad was that structure, the
What a
hammer.
great gift,
You know what I
man.
mean? Yeah. So, and a lot of people only have one of that, and I had both. Even for a time being, I at least had both. You know what I mean? By the grace of God, my dad stayed, my mother stayed. So I had that ability to have both. So my father taught me that everything has its place, and that a man stands up straight, and that you shake a man's hand firmly and you look him in his eye. And my mom taught me that you must remain humble, you know what I mean, and modest, and you follow God and you pray and you let your spirituality lead you. So those type of things, I had to take both of those and I put those together, you know what I mean, and I continue to run with that.
And figure out what works for you.
And what works.
And then on top of it, your grandma, right? And I know that's a huge impact.
Right.
And then, because a lot of kids, that's who they're raised by,
Right.
Is their grandma,
That's
right?
true.
And that's the bottom line. And also, how much impact did your coaches have on you?
Oh yeah, my coach. See, because I mean, a lot of times, like I'm from the South originally, East Coast, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, when you don't have a father, those coaches are in place of that.
They
You know what I
become.
mean? So you may not do things for yourself right, but because your coach wants to see you succeed, you'll graduate school,
Yes.
or you'll stay out of trouble and things like that.
And you know what we call that, man? Or I'm a big guy on your why, right? If your why is big enough and your why becomes bigger than you become unstoppable.
Yeah, it is.
So I have a Tommy story. A guy came into my life that helped me see past what I thought my limits were, and I was doing it because I wouldn't let him down. I'd walk through fire for Tommy at that time, right? And when you could dial into that why that big, do you feel the same way? Does that make sense?
I think the ability. I think the thing that God blessed me with the most that helps me is my ability to use pain as fuel.
Okay,
And
talk about that.
Just like a car needs fuel. A car in itself, you know what I mean. It may be a beautiful machine, but without that additive of fuel, it won't move. It'd be a beautiful stationary object. You know, I have a Challenger, and that Challenger is great, but if I don't put no fuel in it, it doesn't move off the line.
And let's go a little deeper, right? And eventually, because it's not moving, it deteriorates,
Exactly.
right? It starts to just break down.
Yeah.
So talk about, give me that, what does that mean to you? The pain is your fuel.
Is that throughout my life I've had a lot of adversities that most people have had. You know what I mean? I've had you know what I mean, domestic violence things in my family. Had people die because of drugs. I've had families feuding against each other. I've had in college I wanted to go to law school, and I had my college professor, my favorite college professor, who I thought I had great rapport with. I asked him to write me a letter of recommendation, and that letter of recommendation, it was the most demeaning and degrading things that you could say about somebody who I looked up to, who they basically, instead of telling me no, they just wrote something that was so demeaning and degrading that if I didn't read it beforehand, I would have, there's no telling what would have happened to me. But instead of letting all of those kinks in my armor ultimately break my armor, see, what you do is you ball that all up and you use that as fuel. And I use that from football and sports, because sports teaches a person who has no control how to center all of that aggression into a positive manner. So I use that pain and I use that as fuel. So every time I would be lifting a weight in the gym and it seemed too heavy and I couldn't get there, I'll think about that pain, and that pain would fuel me. And to me, that pain is worth more than anything, and you have to remember that. It's just like when you're eating, and you eat and you look back at your plate, those scraps dictate what you just went through.
Yeah.
You ate that food and you took everything you can and you gained nutrients from that. And by me using that pain as fuel, it's me looking back and remembering the scraps. You can't forget the scraps, because that scraps is what's going to drive you. It's what's going to dictate how far you've come. So when you look back on your life and you look back on them scraps and them bones and all of the people who left you and all of the things, all of the adversity, you go, man, that's how you dictate how far you've come. Because without that, you know what I mean, you just think you took one step, but you look back on it and that's how you dictate it.
And I love it because, you know what, life always, I don't make the rules, you don't make the rules, right? Life makes the rules, and life says you have two options here. You can either use it as an anchor or a propeller, and you're using it as a propeller, right, to move you forward. But you also could have used it as an anchor, right? You could have been that victim, and that's the message that's so deep that I want to get out there through you, because you have that choice, right? You had the adversity. We know that struggle equals strength. That sounds great on paper, but when you're in the real, right, you have that. Let me ask you this: What do you think got you to that point to where you use it as a propeller, not as an anchor?
I think everybody has like a breaking point. You know what I mean? And I think when I got to a point where my mother and myself and my brother, we were going from house to house. And
Okay.
we were sleeping in people's washrooms, and we had the short end of the stick for so long that sometimes you have to look yourself in the mirror and you got to go, yo, I'm done with this.
Okay.
Let's change this. I have to change this, because you can only reach out so many times until you realize people cannot get you out of that hole that you're in.
Right.
You have to look around you and you have to pull yourself up out of that hole. So you can, you know what I mean, you can either be a victor or a victim. You know what I mean? And I decided in my life I was not going to be a victim no more. I was not going to let the society in which I grew up in dictate, because I lived in a gang and drug infested area, that I was going to be a gangbanger and a druggie. That's not going to be me. I'm going to be much greater than that.
How old were you when you hit this aha moment? When you got to a point where you just said, you know what, let me do this. Let me decide.
I want to say probably about 16 or 17
when
I was going through, and we were doing the bouncing from house to house and the family things and the frustrations and the things I was personally growing through. Growing up as a young man and seeing the struggle around me. I mean, I was in that type of household where I wanted to complain that I didn't have enough to eat, but I was thankful for what I did have, and I didn't want to make my mom feel any worse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that was just part of your why.
And that was part of my why, you know what I mean? Because I was never going to be mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually hungry again. I was going to make sure that I am fed, and that's what I did. I took my life in my own hands. But you can't be from the bottom, from the gutter, from the dirt, from the soil, and still get up and make your life change.
And actually be stronger because of that struggle, right? And if people are second guess that, nature is so far ahead of us. We're so behind as human beings. That's why when you have a mom bird and she's watching her baby break out of that shell, she could help that baby get out of that shell anytime she wants. But nature, right, instinctively puts it in them that they have to be strong enough to get out of there to survive, right? They have to be able to get out of there to survive. And one of the things that I'm going to relate your background, your story, to an immigrant, right? What the immigrant mentality is, and why they're so, they do so well as a whole, is because they have what I call the combination that can't be beat in life, which is hunger and gratitude. When you're hungry and you're grateful, how do you beat that? You can't beat that. You just can't beat that. And coming up for where you came from, because you made that decision, you brought that into your life, whether you could identify it or not. You became hungry, right? You stayed hungry, and you were grateful as hell not to be back there, right? And look back and say, you know what? I could have been back, right? I could have been in jail, or I could have been dead.
And a big thing, my brother always used to tell me, he said, a hungry dog will eat grass. And when you really look at that statement, a hungry dog will eat grass. A dog's system cannot process grass, but just so it can have some type of sustenance, even just for a moment, it will eat that grass. And you have to keep that type of hunger throughout your life. And I always take little tidbits and things like that throughout my life, because that's the type of fuel that I need to use my life. Everybody has that fuel. You just have to tap into it.
You got to figure it out.
You have to figure out the fuel in your life. You know what I mean? Because it's an untapped resource. But if you have to find out how to tap it.
And let's go on the polar opposite, right? Let's go on the polar opposite of your world. Now, you take somebody like, and I'm going to use this as a example because everyone knows him, especially right now. You take Donald Trump's kids. You know what their adversity is? Their dad. See, he created his own brand, his own image, his own empire. But now they're growing up in that. They're on the outside, it looks like they've been given everything. But as a man, you know, his son's growing up, right? As a man, you still need to figure out, how do you create your own identity, right? So we all have our own struggles. It might look from the outside, man, look at how bad your struggles are, but you don't know what they're going, you know, you don't know what someone else's struggles are. It just might look pretty from the outside. And we've all been there. You get behind that black curtain, behind that white picket fence, you're a cop, man. It's a train wreck. It's a train wreck. It might look pretty from the outside, but when you get back there, it's a lot of times, man, it is not what you perceive it to be. And so I want to paint that picture as too, because it's so important, because someone that's polar opposite from you, right? That just, I had a girl on, you ready? Chef Coco. She has her own show in Vegas, and she's a chef. She came from the Philippines. They literally ate dog food, right? She was one of, I think, 6 or 7. She was, you know, as a little girl, she became a parent, right? So all that struggle, you ready? She's right now to date has built and operating 6 companies and learned the language and just an absolute beast. So it doesn't matter where you came from, right? The start isn't nearly as important as the finish.
Right.
And I always tell people that, you know, it's so, and that's why I was so excited to have you on this show, man. And I'm so excited because of what you're doing now.
Right.
So you come out here for high school.
Right.
You're playing sports. You're playing ball, and I think you told me before we went on, man. D1.
D1, yeah.
D1. That I mean, that's
football.
That's legit.
Yeah.
That is legit as you can get.
Right.
D1. Who'd you play for?
University of North Dakota.
What position?
I was running back, and then I went to wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I played all kind of kick return, pump return, pump like this.
Your size, you look like you'd be a good D-back or safety.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to make me. I
You want to be offense?
Right, yeah. I'd rather have the
You
ball
want the
in my hand.
notoriety.
Right.
I hear you.
So,
I hear you.
But yeah, so I did that, and then that was a big deal for me too, because I've never been one of those type of people that I wanted to be a dentist or I wanted to be.
Right.
I didn't want other people to dictate. I've either wanted to play football professionally or I wanted to be in law enforcement, because those two things have been very important in my life. You know what I mean?
And that's your terms. You want to live your life on your terms.
And that's just been it. So I was able to play football at the University of North Dakota, and I had that great experience. And I brought all that in.
See you know what I love about this though? Here's what I want to know. So you're talking about a kid from Miami, right? Now in North Dakota. Listen, it don't get any polar opposite than that.
Or any colder.
Oh, right? But even the life, right? How was that? Like when because I know we have that mutual friend, Anthony Steele, right? Big A, and he told me when we went to the Midwest for his college, he gets off the bus and he's like, oh my God. Yeah. He calling his mom, he goes, I want to come home. She goes, you ain't coming home.
Yeah, it's kind of a shell shock because basically when I tell people about it, I say they live kind of how life should be, in the sense that if I leave my bike on my yard, my bike will be on my yard.
Yeah.
Nobody locks their doors. I remember my first 2 weeks there, I spent more time knocking on doors and in the houses because nobody would come to the door, and I'm knocking.
They just want you to come in.
Yeah, just come in. And I'm just knocking, and I'm just thinking nobody's home. So after a couple weeks, I'm like, it's not that nobody's home. I just need to walk in here.
What a feeling,
But what a feeling. The first time I asked my roommate to use his car, he was like, the keys are in the armrest. Armrest, like in the car? He's like, yeah, in the car. And I'm thinking like, man, you must be out of your mind. But that's life there. That's how it is, and they bring you in. And I'm not saying that they don't have their prejudices. But I'm just saying that the taste of the Midwest that I got was the fact that, you know what I mean, once you're here, you're home.
Yes.
And I think that should be everywhere.
And I love what you said. They're living life the way it should be. Right? Back in the day, when you hear people, generations like your dad or even older, talk about that. Their doors are open, and it is what it is, right? But what a drastic polar opposite from where you came from, right? To and even Oceanside, Oceanside, right?
Different. But the Midwest also, they kind of it seemed like they had a block on life. So they'll be like, oh, you guys will see guns? People would have guns? Wait, drugs? Like, it was like that. It's really like that when we watch it on TV.
Is it really?
And it's crazy how you could live in the same country, or you can even be the same gender or race, and you have two. I mean, myself coming from, you know what I mean, South Miami, and somebody coming from Minnesota, you know what I mean, or Duluth or something like that. Even though we both are black men, we had totally different experiences on what life was.
Totally different
people.
You know what I mean?
And it wasn't better or worse.
No.
It was just different. You know what I mean? Because of the lay of the land in which we came.
Yes.
So,
totally. Yeah. Totally. That's you put them in Miami, and listen, it's going to be a shock like you can't believe, right? Just probably on the flip side, because they got to lock they don't lock their car. They're walking. They're walking. They're getting their cardio in.
Exactly.
But I love that. So you played 4 years?
I played 2 years there, 2.5 years there, because prior to that, I went to Santa Rosa Junior College in the Bay Area, which is like ranked number 2 or 3 in the country in junior college football. Played 2.5 years at North Dakota, and then I ended up coming back to Oceanside because my dad was sick.
Right, you were so you had to take care of your dad.
Him, and then while I was out here, I was like, you know what, I want to do something more than. I mean, working the minimum wage jobs is fine. Everybody has to work to eat. You know what I'm saying, and that's fine. But I wanted something better for myself, and then that's why. And then with seeing everything that was happening on TV and people getting shot down and the injustices and the uproar and the, you know what I mean, everything. I'm just one of those type of people that's just like, I'm not going to sit back and watch something happen and not do anything about it.
Right, and you also had that pull that you wanted to get in into the police. But before we jump into that, I know we had some people jump on. Then we'll, Marion, did we have anybody jump on with some comments?
We've got Shane DeGray.
Big Shane Train out in Philly. He's at East Coast Hustle, man. The kid's a beast. Thank you, Shane.
He says, happy the Shane Train, Monster Motivational. Love you guys.
Love you back, brother. Love you back.
Then we have shout out.
Okay.
And from Kelly Fitzgerald.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That's my publisher for the book. She's awesome. She made it so seamless. I didn't have to write a sentence. I just audioed it.
There you go.
And then Carrie Stonebridge.
Okay.
And Nora Carter.
All right. Well, Carrie, thank you so much. She's awesome. She shares everything. She's just an awesome lady. Make sure you guys hook up with Jarrel after this. We're going to reshare this, and you can reconnect with him.
Right.
And then you said Noreen?
Noreen Carter.
Okay. Noreen, how are you? I know you love pit bulls just as much as I do, girl. Thank you for the support.
And then we have Cobra Bryson.
Okay. Thank you guys for jumping on. With anybody with comments or questions?
Shane's the only one that's commented
Okay.
so far, but he got a lot of likes.
All right. Thank you guys for the love. Thank you guys for throw up them hearts and make sure you share this. This is now we're going to get into some really good stuff. This is the part that I'm really excited about because we're going to both share our background and our experience tied in with what you see going on in the news on a daily basis. But this is going to on both of our ends are going to come from real world experience, not what you read in a magazine, not what you saw on CNN, and not what you read in a book. This is going to be real, and that's what this show's all about. Right. So, kid from Miami, Oceanside, right? Rough areas, projects. Now you become a cop, right?
Right.
So this is what's so awesome, dude. We're going to get a perspective from a kid that's lived it, right? On one side, saw so much on one side, and now is living it on another side, right? So your perspective is so real and it's so genuine that it is what it is. Right. It is what it is. So talk about this. What made you I know you wanted to get into be a police officer. You wanted to make a difference. Right. You've always had that pull. Did you ever let me ask you this, man. Did you ever want to get into the service? Because your dad was... I
was thinking about getting into the service, but the thought of signing my rights over to the government and just being stuck in a place. You know what I mean? One thing about me is I'm real big on my freedom. I'm big on the ability to be able to come and go as I like and say what I have to say and do everything within reason and logic. Okay. So I was thinking about it, and you know what I mean. I'm a big respect on my family. In some sort of way, as far as Air Force, Marines, Navy, all of that. But that wasn't really my route. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't my route, and I'm real big on running my own race. We have a lot of people in the world now running too many other people's races.
Man, I love it. I love it.
We have to stay in our lane and run our own race.
Run your own race, man. Listen to what he's saying, and I can relate to that because I wouldn't. I have to do it on my terms, right? Or else it doesn't work for me. And I love, stay in your lane, but run your own race. And I always say, don't ever give up the driver's seat in your life, right? Because you give up that driver's seat, now what? Right. Now what? So you become a cop in San Diego. Right. What, 2.5 years ago?
Yep.
Okay. So how was that whole transition? How was that?
To be honest, one of the things a lot of people ask you, I got asked this a whole bunch of times when I was in the academy, is why you did it.
Yeah.
And you got the generic answers. Well, I wanted to, change my community.
Right.
I just wanted to, to bring money to my family. Yeah. All those things out. And
the typical
things, and that's fine. If that's your answer, whether it be safe or that's exactly what it is. That's what it is. Right. But my thing is I wanted to bring change to a community in which I came from. I wanted to be able to bring that change in a way that I thought was most effective. Okay. And I wanted to do it as a person of color that show other people of color that there's more than one route. I think that superheroes come in different shapes, sizes, and I wanted to show not only, you know what I mean, my counterparts, but also young, you know what I mean, Asians and black boys and Mexican boys, people of color, that, hey, you know what I mean, superheroes look like you as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because, you know what I mean, not everybody looks like Superman or Batman or this like that. You know what I mean? Everybody is different, and I wanted to show, like, hey, you don't have to be on the opposing side. What you can do is you can do something right, and you can do it in a way, and you can make. I think a lot of people want to do the right thing, but the right thing is not always cool, and you have to find a way to make what's right cool. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's what I do. If I still walk the same and talk the same, and I have to make the same mannerisms that I would back in the inner city, but at the same time I've used that energy and put it in a positive direction. So when I'm in my uniform that looks so clean and shiny and neat and pressed, I still have that same walk because I earned that walk from my life. But I also earned the badge and I earned the responsibility that comes with it.
And both are who you are. That's the real. Both are who you are.
Right.
You earn both, right? Because they're both badges, right? Just one you just literally wear.
Yeah.
But they're both badges, man, because that's where the street cred comes. That's where that comes from. You earn both badges, and that's what's so unique. And, well, I don't know how unique it is. I don't know that, but I know how I think it's so real because it's coming from there. So when you're connecting with those kids, you've lived it, you've been there, you've walked their shoes. Right. How do you can't disperse that, man? You can't dispute that. I mean, it is what it is. So I want to talk about things that are going on now. Obviously, we see all this craziness going on in the media in the inner cities, and we know. Listen, because of the cameras, there's a lot more that's been brought to light. Right. And at the end of the day, I always say this: I don't care what profession you're in, or what area in life you're in. There's good and there's bad, right? And that's just the real. Right. And that's I think that's what you're going to say. I believe that's probably what you're going to say. But I want to give a little bit of background on where I came from, that I can speak on this as well. I spent 17 years, and Google this, a city named Camden, New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey, North Philly, and Southwest Philly. 17 years. And was not allowed to carry a gun because I wasn't in the armed forces and I wasn't in the military. So 17 years, and I had businesses in there where I'd be in there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the projects. So I've lived that world for a very long time, and I've not just survived, but thrived in that environment to where I think it's 1994, 95, and 96, if I'm right. Camden was the most violent city per capita in the whole country. They brought the state police in and still never left since 1992 with the Camden police. Right? It is a third world country. Right. When you go back in there, it is a third. And it's just a different world, man. And what happens is, but it's no different, right? Than if you take a section in South Miami, right? You take a section in Detroit. It's the same mentality, right? Survive, do what you got to do, right? The strong survive. And I'm using a broad paintbrush, but whatever the inner city is a different animal. And when you get people that are talking, and I call it chirping, that have no idea, they've never been in that world for a minute, or the most they've been in, right, is driving through with armed guards, right? So how much are you going to really experience on a daily basis, right? I've been in North Philly where it's mapped out as the Badlands. I've been stopped because the white people coming in from and I'm saying white again, I'm painting a broad brush, but the people coming in from the suburbs are the ones buying the drugs. Right. They're the ones buying the prostitutes, right? So I was stopped quite a bit, wondering, what am I doing in there, right? What is this white young kid doing in this? And I just have to give my business card, tell them what I'm doing. I'd be 3 o'clock in the morning boarding up a house that had a fire right across the street from the projects, hearing the guns, just the cops flying down, right? And it is a different animal. It's a different world now. When you have to protect that, right? When you take that oath, you have two battles. And tell me if I'm wrong, right? You have two battles. One is the neighborhood, right? And then the other is the brotherhood.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you say what you want, but it's a brotherhood, and rightfully so, because it's a different animal. So that being said, there's a lot that I've seen over the years, a lot of I've experienced, and I've been in some pretty hairy situations, but just as you have been. Give me your perspective now, 2.5 years, as a kid from Miami, right? African American, knowing what you know now in 2.5 years experience. Give me your take on this.
I think there may be one more one more thing that you have to have in there. But I think not only do you have the what they call the blue wall, which is the law enforcement, the brotherhood. The brotherhood.
Okay.
You have the people that you have to deal with, but then you will have your own personal obligation that the people of your same color or your same group have for you as well.
Right.
There's been many times I can tell you with my experience.
Yeah.
I get it the worst from my own.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I get the N word and you.
And see, I never experienced it, so I wouldn't know that third one.
Yeah, and that third one is the big one because when their house is burning, before you get there, somebody has to go in that house to help out or do it. They need to do crowd control or whatever. They need to do something.
Right.
Then they need you, so they have the obligation of needing you. But then when it goes down the road of, hey, I may have to arrest your brother or your uncle or your nephew, now it becomes you're a traitor. You're supposed to be on our side, and things like that. And that is a weight on the shoulder.
It's got to be. How do you deal with that?
I think you deal with it. I think you just have to be a realist, and like this show is all about. It's about the real. And I have to wake up every morning and tell myself the truth, and I have to say, listen, if I'm going to go out and do this job, I have to do it rationally, I have to do it realistically, and I got to make sure that I make a positive change, but a realistic change.
And let me do this. Let me jump in real quick, right? Because it's going to be a great point. I tell people all the time when I do my talks is I live my life with intention. So if my intention is pure and I use a word or a sentence that offends you, that's on you.
Right.
Because my intention is pure. So you're coming out every day knowing that your intention is pure and let the chips fall where they may.
Right.
You're doing the right thing because doing the right thing is always the right thing.
Right? And people are not going to like it regardless, whatever. You know what I mean? Nobody likes to get a ticket, to get arrested. And the job in itself, and what I tell a lot of people, the job in itself is not a pretty job. We do not have the type of, I don't have the type of job where it in any way is pretty. You know what I mean? I can never put on the cuffs, you know what I mean, pretty. Easy. Whatever. You know what I mean? If I have to contact somebody and they fight back, it's going to look rough. So a lot of times what you see on TV, not all the times, but some of the time what you see on TV is you see a cop that did his complete job, the best of his abilities, and then when it comes time to enact that arrest, now he's in a fight. So now all you see...
It's out of context.
It's out of context at times. So then you see him throwing the person to the ground when in essence he did everything he needed to do beforehand to handle his job and complete each objective. And now it's a fight because the other person doesn't want to go to jail and they know what the risk is as well. You know what I mean?
It's the real world. And let's really do this too, right? It's no surprise why it's out of context because it goes back to CNN, Fox have to get you to tune in. So their job is to get it out of context. To be honest with you, give it the real. They need viewers,
and sometimes they do push an agenda. But this is my mentality: is this? If I give you nothing to use, if I give you no bullets, if you have a gun but I give you no bullets, you can't kill me with that gun. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's sometimes you have officers using an extreme amount of
absolute force. No question.
You know what
no
I mean?
question.
And that goes back to a use of force. I think what it really comes down to this. When it comes down to the officer, I don't think there's a bad and a good cop. A lot of people say, well, those were bad cops. How do you work? There are good people and there are bad people.
All right,
and
there you go.
And each of those groups happen to be law enforcement.
They're human beings.
Because the job itself is an honorable job in itself. But you have good people that work that honorable job and you have bad people that work that honorable job.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
I like that.
So when I come to work and I'm coming to work and I'm coming to deal with you, I'm going to deal with you as a person. See, you have a lot of law enforcement officers that these are the type of people that have never been picked for a sports team.
Right.
They never were popular. They never had a girlfriend. They never were this. So now, with that badge, they have a chance to get back at the society that they never had a chance to, and not necessarily get back, but now they finally in life have a one-up. So now I have a little bit of power, and one thing about it is power is one thing that people feed off of it, but if put in the wrong person's hands, it could be a bad thing.
And you know what power is? Just like money. Power and money are transparent. In other words, if you come into money, you're going to be who you are, just at a different level.
Right.
So if you're not a nice guy, you're going to be not a nice guy at a major level, right? So it's so transparent, that power. And they obviously, there's a lot of them that can't handle that because their self-image won't allow them.
Or they let the badge take over, and it lets them take the humanity out of them.
Yeah.
When I come to you,
you become a number.
You become the badge.
Yeah.
So you have, I put it like this, and this is what I tell. You have people that command respect and that demand respect. See, me, I'm going to command your respect because when I come to you, I'm going to speak to you with respect. My uniform is going to be pressed. I'm going to look the part. I'm going to play the part. I'm going to talk the part. And I'm going to treat you as a human being unless you create otherwise, and I have to, go hands-on and do it.
Go a different direction.
But in essence, I'm going to treat you as you are, a human being. But then you have those people that have to demand respect, that they don't have the ability to command it. So they're going to say, you do what I say because I say it because of this.
Right.
So you have people that stand on their badge and people that stand behind.
And then there's dictatorship and there's leadership, right?
Exactly.
And here's what I want to share, right? And here's what I know already. Here's why he can command respect. When you grow up in the inner city, if you think that you're going to demand respect for a very long time, that's a bad business plan, right? Because you ain't going to last, right? But when you can command it, now, me going into that city, not being born there, going into that city, you have to carry yourself a certain way. Right. You have to start to know, right? I knew after a little while, right? Now in Camden, in Jersey, there was a lot of plain clothes, Vice, right? And they always thought I was Vice. Now it depends on the area that I was in, whether or not that was on my side or whether or not that was going against me. And I had to learn real quick what that was, because I'm knocking on a door, and then little things, right? Knocking on the door ain't getting the door open with a guy that looks like me, but if I knock on the window, I'm going to get the door open. Yeah. See, those things that you're in that world,
and
right?
It's the ability to adapt, which is going to help you. Help you survive.
But doesn't that go back to command versus demand, right? Because I knew survival, right, was command, not demand, right? Who am I? Yeah, right. I'm in somebody else's world.
And law enforcement is one of those jobs that you cannot. There's not one way to do it. So the way I will talk to you as a white man, I may talk to somebody different. I may talk to him differently. You guys may be two white guys, but he may be a guy from the hill. You're a dude from Camden. So I can say, hey, man, what's going on, big man? Let's talk about it, man. Listen, I got a call about this, and hey, I can't have you around here. I need you to get... And the other dude have to say, hey, excuse me, sir. Listen, I'm responding to a radio call, and I'll go down that line.
He won't connect.
But you have to be able, as the officer. See, and this is what a lot of times I think law enforcement puts too much on the civilians and not enough on law enforcement.
Talk about that.
It's not my job. It's not your job to create the contact in which
as a civilian.
As a civilian. I'm not. You're not supposed to make me feel comfortable. I'm here. I'm the ones with 40 pounds around my waist of all kind of ammunition and weapons. So my job is to set the tone and say, listen, this is why I'm here. This is what's going to happen. This is what can happen. I need to inform you because it's the reason why I feel personally, and I'm not speaking for my department, I'm speaking as Jarrel, as a black man, as a person, a human being, and a citizen. I think that we've lost the lines of communication. We are no longer talking to people like humans. It is, I am the dictator, I am the police, and you know what time it is. And you'll never get anything across.
And you know why I believe that happens? Because of what you just said earlier, right? 2 seconds ago, what you said in a different way was you need to take, and they need to take responsibility. It's responsibility. Like you said, I'm the civilian.
Right.
You look at it as it's your responsibility to say, here's where we're at. I'm setting the precedence, right? Not the civilian. And I think that's where it's lost because they're not willing to take that responsibility.
Right.
And then the communication, right? And I share this story a lot. So it's a Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm in North Camden. I mean, as rough, 6th and State Street. I mean, as rough as it can get. And I'm in the house, and I need to get my paperwork signed, but they speak no English. The owner, the mom. So I have a 12-year-old. Her daughter is speaking through. She's, speaking for me. Right. The son runs the biggest Dominican gang in that neighborhood, right? And I'm connecting with him. I get the job. Literally 4 hours later, because we get calls from insurance companies, 4 hours later, I'm in Villanova, which is like Rancho Santa Fe, at a man's house that just had a fire. It's his third house. He's ready to fly on his jet down to Miami, right? And I'm trying to connect with him. He has to feel comfortable enough with me to be able to handle his fire.
Right.
So you want to talk about polar opposites and need to connect, like you were talking about,
right.
Speaking a different language. Literally 4 hours later, before, I'm in North Camden,
right.
speaking through a translator that's 12 years old, and I'm sitting with this guy that's got $6,000 Armani suits, right. And he's taking his jet down to that. So that, and here's where I'm going with this, and here's what you have in such a high level, which is why you're able to do what you do on a daily basis. Is I always say, growing up in school, I did bad. I D's and F's, right? D's and F's. I didn't even graduate high school, right? Always in trouble, never, cutting school. I was always the bad kid. But realizing, looking back, and I wasn't supposed to make it, right? I'm not supposed to do any good, right?
Standards,
right? Through their standards. But what I realized is, thank God for me, right? It's better to be lucky than good. EQ trumps IQ all day long in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Thank God, because that EQ is how I can communicate in North Camden and go to Villanova, or go into Barrio in San Diego and go to Rancho Santa Fe that same day.
And I see that a lot at work. You have me coming from inner city.
Yes.
You have a lot of kids that's always been from the hill. And like I said, them having a privileged life it's not bad. That's what they were born into, and that's fine. But when it comes time to talk to somebody, when you're from the hill and they're from the mud, and it comes down to talk and you can't effectively communicate because you don't know how to deal with that, that's when it becomes a problem.
Huge.
So that's when a conversation turns into a confrontation, and then a confrontation turns into a fight, and then a fight turns into a use of force that sometimes may be outside of the range. But just to play the devil's advocate as well, as the citizen as well, there is some responsibility to you as well to make sure that, because we're just doing the job, we are people too as well. So if I come to you and I'm telling you cannot be here because of this, that, and the third, and you create a confrontation on that, now you give the power to the law enforcement officer to enact whatever he needs to do, whether that be arrest or detention and things of that nature. And that all comes around from, us making sure that we maintain a level of our training and our use of force, and you as a citizen knowing your rights as well. Because both of those things, you have a lot of times citizens feel like they've been taken advantage of because they don't know what I tell people, we know a lot about nothing. You know what I mean? You know the lyrics to every song, whether you can delineate what they're saying or not. We know the Jordans and we know this, but when it comes down to things that really matter, like my rights, what I'm allotted to do, what I can't do, what this rule is. Oh, I didn't know. But the first thing that comes out of people's mouth is, I know my rights. And I hear that 100 times a day.
All day.
And they know nothing about what they're talking about. You know what I mean? So, and that goes back to, like you're saying about this show, this is about being real, because in life, we've been sugar-coated so much and dumbed down so much that when you give somebody a spoonful of truth, they go haywire. They're pissed off.
Yeah, everyone's looking to be offended.
Right.
Everyone's looking to be offended. And listen, at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, it's so easy to be offended.
Right.
And that's why I live my life with pure intention. Right. If I'm coming at you with, now, if it's not the right intention, that's a whole nother animal.
Right.
But I'm talking about pure intention, like when you walk out that door with your gear on, your intention is pure. You're there to help, assist any way that you can within the law. That right? That's it. Here's what I love about your story. If I had to give one word about what I love about your message today, is this: responsibility. And I'm going to go back to Miami. I'm going to go back to your mom and your grandma, because you know what they did? They took responsibility to raise you, right? They could have said, hey man, this is where we are, and this is what happens, and this is the government's fault, right? They took responsibility and said, listen, here's the deal. If you do this, here's the consequences. And here's where I think so many people are falling down as parents. They're not willing to show their kids that there's consequences. And I believe there's two gifts that you can give a kid, whether you're a guardian or a parent or a coach or a teacher, that will set them up for success if they decide to take it in. And that's a bulletproof self-image, and understand, and letting them truly know deep in their soul that that life doesn't care. Here's what I mean by that, right? When you leave this house, Life doesn't care how pretty your smile is, how cute your dimples look, and how your blue eyes get through, right? At the end of the day, life goes, when you're ready, life goes, what did you do today? What are your results? And I think that's where so many people get lost in that. And you see it every day because you're behind that black curtain. Yeah. You're in that domestic violence. You're in that. You're in that drug world every single day.
And it's crazy to think that all of that stuff is going on even before I got into the profession. When I go about my day and I'm playing at the park or we're having a barbecue and things like that, somebody's responding to those radio calls. Yes. That is going on as we speak right now. Something that's happening in Oceanside that we don't know about, that somebody is responding to, and you do see it every day. And I think it's important to speak life back into the people. That the reason why I like this job is because I have the innate ability to be able to change somebody's life with my job every day. And I have the ability, I've been given that dominion by the state to do it in a way that I see fit, as long as it's within the law. Yeah. So sometimes I may pull a kid to the side. I say, hey man, what you going to do when you go to school? And I can shoot hoops with them, play around with them for 15 minutes and tell them, hey man, I can tell somebody from the hood that's always been demonized and saying you're not going to make it, that you're a king and you can make it. But listen, you got to have a plan. So let's talk real quick. What are you going to do? That type of stuff. I can go buy food and I can hand it to somebody. I can say, hey, can I have my lunch with you? And we can say, and we don't have anything in common. I'm a police officer, you possibly may be a drug abuser. But at that point in time, we're equals. That's what the job is about. That's what the job was initially for. It was to be able not only to enact an arrest and keep and maintain the peace, but also for people to relate to people, even if we're on different levels. It's about connect, right? It's in the neighborhood. It's in where you're at. It's that connect. And that's where I think, look, on both sides, it's like you said, but it comes down to responsibility. So many people don't want to take responsibility for their life. And you've been able to conquer that. Let me ask you this. Before we jump off, because we're going to share where they can find you and what you got going on. But Marion, did anybody else jump on with a comment?
We've got shout outs. You've got Lisa Evans. She's a new listener from the Northwest.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
And also Rocco. Okay, I apologize if I mispronounced the last name. Camarello.
Okay.
Brady J.
Okay, Brady. That's my man up in Alaska. Thank you, brother, for jumping on.
Carl Graham.
All right, Carl. Thank you for taking the time, jumping in on here. And J-Rock, Jarrel is going to jump on after, and I'm going to jump on as well. And thank everyone for taking the time.
And also here, Cobra Bryson.
Okay, awesome.
Noreen Carter.
All right, Noreen. Thank you for the love, guys. Share this stream today. Share this show because it's going to connect and relate to so many people. Because you're hearing the real from both ends, live and in color, right here, right now. So make sure you share this. And now, before we jump off, big man, anything that you want to share that I didn't talk about?
I think the big thing and I'll speak on behalf of not only myself but law enforcement, is that I think collectively as a people we have to come back together and we both have to maintain and bridge that gap so we can get back on the same page. I think a lot of these injustices that people are seeing by law enforcement has been happening now, just videos on it now.
It's coming to light.
And it shouldn't be that way. And there's a lot of other things, and there's a lot of things coming from the civilian side onto law enforcement, and we all are people, we all are human beings, and we need to handle our own obligations to come together and let's bridge this gap somehow.
Beautiful.
And we have to do it because people shouldn't be dying. I shouldn't, you know what I mean, as a black man and a person with a badge on my chest, I shouldn't see my brothers and sisters dying. You know what I mean? And I mean my brothers and sisters of all shades, colors, and dialects. You know what I'm saying? I should not see anybody being killed on my watch and on my duty, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to give life back into, the lifeless, to feed those who can't feed themselves, to help those who can't help themselves. Right. And that's the essence of the job. And if you're not seeing that or experiencing that, just know that there's people of color, regular people, white people, clear people, polka dotted people. We're here to do that. And not everybody is bad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Other than that, we're doing a lot of community outreach in Oceanside, and I'm going to be bringing this back up towards the San Diego area. I'm a police officer working in Western Division for San Diego Police Department, and I'm just blessed to be here and blessed to be doing this. We're feeding the homeless out here. We have our own community outreach team that you and yourself know about, and we're just going to basically I'm going to take my message and I'm going to be giving classes and different seminars that teach about police and public relations. One of the main ones is going to be one that's going to be talking about surviving the contacts and about how the contacts go with officers and civilians and different things, where there may be a police stop, or you know what I mean, and teaching that, because a lot of people don't understand the rights and the laws and what they're obligated to do and not obligated to do when an officer stops them and things like that. And that is the core essence of a lot of the problems that we have.
And when you got the events coming up, we're going to share it.
Yeah.
We're going to promote. We're going to work this together. And then, like I said, he'll jump on after and give us information. So where can we find you? Are you on Facebook, Twitter?
I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under the same name, J Rockefeller 305 J.
And you'll put that on there.
Yeah, and I put all that on there.
Okay.
And I have the same name, and you can contact me if anybody. I know a lot of times I speak at high schools, churches, and things of that nature. I've been doing a lot of those lately and planning more. I mean, if this is something that you would like in your middle school or your high school or for your sports team and things like that, I mean, I'd be more willing to come and spend my own personal time and just to talk to people and just shed a light on things. Even if it's just a question and answer, we sit in the middle and just talk, because we need more people. We need people to be a part of the people. You know what I mean? It can't be a blue wall and then the rest. It's not us versus them, and I don't play that.
Because it's a short-term mentality. It's a short-term business plan. It's never gonna win. It's always about. I always say it's about creating, not competing, right? And learn how to create. And it's coming. But again, it's coming from the real. Right. That's the difference. It's coming from the real on both sides. So, big man, before we jump off, we end the show all the same way, right? Here's the deal, right? We talk about life. Life makes the rules, right? I don't make the rules, you don't make the rules. And life says you can be in one state of mind at a time. So if you're in victim state, you can't be in gratitude state. Right? If you're in gratitude state, you can't be in victim state. Right. But if you could be in that unstoppable state for the majority of your day, how good would that feel? Huh? Would that be badass?
Definitely.
That would be badass. And life always says you got two choices. You could purr like a kitten or roar like a lion. Yeah, and I know my man wants to roar like a lion. Yeah, so Monster Motivator Roar. It's going to put you in an unstoppable state for that moment. Whenever you find yourself in that funk, go back to this, because it puts you in that state. Now, the sound is just as important as the pose. And here's how it looks. So on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. My man.
Get it, baby.
Guys, thank you so much for jumping on.